All right, let's jump right in. We're going to be exploring Om Swami's The Children of Tomorrow, which is just an incredible guide for anyone on that beautiful, and let's be honest, sometimes completely chaotic journey we call parenting. It's all about finding a little bit of calm in the middle of all the madness.
You know, there's this great story about a young pastor. He starts out with a list he calls the 10 Commandments of Parenting. He's got it all figured out, right? Well, then he has his first kid, and suddenly it's just 10 laws. A second child comes along, and now it's 10 rules. By the time the fourth kid shows up, the list is kind of hidden on a back door, and it's called 10 Tentative Ideas on Parenting. It's just a perfect way to remember that there's no magic formula here.
So that's the big question, isn't it? If there's no instruction manual, if every single child is a whole new world, where in the heck do you even start? It can feel pretty overwhelming, but the answer isn't about finding a set of rules, it's about unlocking what's already there.
And that brings us to this first huge idea, the concept of making a happy genius. Now, I know that sounds incredibly ambitious, but it's actually rooted in a remarkable, true story about the amazing potential that's just waiting inside every child.
Okay, so meet Laszlo and Clara Polgar. Before they'd even had kids, they came up with this hypothesis. Laszlo, a psychologist, had studied the lives of like 400 geniuses and noticed a pattern. They all started super young and studied a lot. So he and Clara decided, hey, let's test this out on our own kids. But they had one absolutely crucial condition. The goal was never just about being a genius. It was about being a happy genius. And the results of their experiment were, well, they were mind-blowing. Their daughter, Susan, at just 4 years old, wins an under-11 chess tournament. Can you even imagine? Their youngest, Judith, goes on to become the youngest grandmaster in history, male or female, at 15, shattering Bobby Fischer's record. This wasn't some lucky break. It was proof that their idea worked. Focused, early, and genuinely joyful nurturing can unlock just about anything.
So here's the key takeaway from their story. The Polgars' success wasn't about pressure. It was about principles. They truly believed every child holds a promise. But to bring that promise to life, you have to start early. The process has to be fun and playful. And the ultimate goal, the real win, isn't just about achievement. It's about genuine happiness.
What an incredible story, right? But how do we take that inspiration and bring it into our own crazy, busy lives? Well, that brings us to our next section, a really practical framework using a simple acronym that's super easy to remember. First, though, let's just set the mood with this amazing concept from Denmark, which happens to be one of the happiest countries on Earth, hygge. It's that feeling of, cocoa by candlelight, of being safe and warm and just connected with the people you love, especially when there's a storm raging outside. That feeling, that's the atmosphere we're aiming for in a family.
And this framework, Parent, kind of breaks that feeling of hygge down into 6 things we can do every day. Let's run through it. P is for play, which is how kids learn to be resilient. A is for authenticity, being emotionally honest, not trying to be perfect. R is for reframing, helping kids find the good in a tough situation. E is for empathy, which just means really listening without jumping in to judge. N stands for no ultimatums, knowing which battles are worth fighting. And finally, T is for togetherness, creating that core feeling of connection that makes everything else work.
Now, this framework is fantastic for the day-to-day, but what about those really tough moments? You know the moments when your kid lies to you or when you just feel that hot flash of anger? That's when the real test happens. There is such a powerful story about Mahatma Gandhi's grandson, Arun. He lied to his dad, Manilal, about being late. When Manilal found out, he didn't scream, he didn't punish him. Instead, he said this. Turning the whole thing back on himself, he decided to walk home for miles just to think about where he had failed as a parent. And Arun drove behind him the entire way, just weeping, and swore he would never lie again. That story just illustrates it perfectly. When a mistake happens, there are really 2 paths you can take. On one side, you've got shame and punishment. And sure, it might feel like it works in the short term, but all it really does is teach kids to become better liars and creates fear. But on the other side, there's love and understanding. It is way harder for sure, but it builds a space where truth can actually exist. It fosters connection and trust that will last a lifetime.
The author, Om Swami, tells his own story about this. He got slapped by a teacher for some small mistake and went home absolutely terrified. But his father didn't shame him. Instead, he wrote a note back to the teacher that said, "You must never touch my child again." That single act of support, just knowing his dad had his back, became a pillar of strength for him and taught him how to be fearless.
And hey, let's be real.
After talking about all these intense moments, some days it probably feels a little bit like this, right? A little humor never hurts.
So, after we've navigated the daily ups and downs, what's the long-term goal here? What are we really building? It's all about creating a foundation for the future, giving our kids the tools they'll need long after we're not around to help.
There's this really important idea called identity capital. Just think of it like a toolkit of personal assets that someone builds over their lifetime. Their skills, their experiences, their jobs, even their unique way of solving problems. This is the currency they're going to use to get through life's inevitable crises. And our job is to help them start building that capital early.
A huge part of building that capital is just teaching perspective. There's this great little story about a boy who lost his contact lens. He searched and finally gave up. His mom goes outside, and 10 minutes later, she's found it. He asks her how, and she says, "Simple. We weren't looking for the same thing. You were searching for a small piece of plastic. I was looking for $200. Understanding the real value of things, now that's a life skill."
And that brings us to a final parable that just captures the heart of this entire journey so perfectly. A father bird is carrying his son to a new nest. As they fly over a river, he asks him, "Son, I'm working so hard for you. When I'm old and weak, will you take care of me the way I'm taking care of you now?"
The first two sons, he asks immediately, say yes, of course, and the father, disappointed by their easy promises, lets them go. But the third and wisest son says this, "Father, I can't promise that. Life is unpredictable. But I can promise you one thing. I will take care of my children the way you are taking care of me." And that is the ultimate goal. Our reward as parents isn't getting repaid. It's seeing the love we give get passed on to the next generation. It's not a debt to be collected, it's a gift to be forwarded.